Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bold TV. Bold TV is a program brought to you and powered by Bold Hearts Initiative. Bold standing for beautiful, outstanding ladies with disabilities. We come to you every Saturday by 10:30 a.m. where we have conversations on disability and disability-related issues, especially with respect to the woman with disability. Today, we have an amazing topic. We've captioned it Disability Stories. Emphasis is on albinism awareness. So get everyone who you think should participate in this program and ask them to, come, tune in, listen, learn. Let's learn together. On this particular episode, to help with the conversation on albinism awareness, I have three beautiful ladies who are guests on the show today who will be having robust conversations around issues on albinism and persons with albinism. I also have with me my co-hosts who are regulars on Bold TV. So by way of introduction, I would ask the ladies who are our guests to introduce themselves. We'll start with them. So ladies, this is how you're going to introduce yourself. Simply tell us your name, tell us what you do, tell us where you are based.
Good day. I'm Ezonwomel Vivian Chika. I'm the chairperson, Anambra State Albinism Association. And also, I'm the head of cluster units, Albinism Cluster Services in Anambra State Disability Rights Commission. Thank you.
My name is Insilu Suzigo Ugochinyelu. I run an NGO, White Angels Foundation, which is about albinism, basically for children with albinism. I'm based in Delta State, Nigeria, and I'm also an entrepreneur. Thank you.
My name is Constance Sonyemechi. I am the Chief Executive Director of Women and Girls with Albinism Network, and I am also a communications officer with West African Network for Peace Building. Thank you. And I reside in Abuja.
So we've had our guests introduce themselves. We have Vivian all the way in Anambra State. We have Susie Gold in Delta State. We have Constance in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. So I'll turn introductions to my co-hosts to quickly introduce themselves.
Good morning, ladies. I'm Osaki Teresa George, a member of Bold Hearts Initiative. I reside in River State, Port Harcourt, polio survivor. I'm a staff of Fair Care Foundation. Thank you.
It's another beautiful day in the life of mankind. My name is Oluwatomisin Adeyefa. I'm a visually impaired person based in Abeokuta, the state capital of Ogun State. I'm a broadcast journalist, a sound engineer, a disability and gender rights advocate, a sexuality and reproductive health campaigner, and the executive director of Access TV. Thank you for having me here.
My name is Freki Andrew Essien. I'm the Executive Director of Fair Care Foundation, public health professional. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury, and I am a member of Bold Hearts Network. Great. So now that the introductions are out of the way, we are so grateful that we have this particular episode. It's exciting to be here to talk about and raise awareness as regards albinism. For those who do not know, albinism is something that persons live with in sub-Saharan Africa and in Nigeria, and it is a conversation to be had. And to help us to have a robust conversation are the ladies who have just introduced themselves. So one will be wondering what informed us having, or focusing on this disability cluster, and that is because in the month of June, specifically on the 13th of June, the world all over celebrates albinism awareness. That's International Day for Albinism, where awareness is raised on issues around albinism. Yes, we may have missed it in the month of June, but what we'd say about disability is that we must keep the conversation ongoing, whether on special days or not. And that is why I felt that it was needful that this cluster be represented today and conversations had. In today's particular episode, we're going to be looking at what albinism is. We're going to ask ourselves, why is albinism even called a disability? We're going to be looking at issues around health when it comes to persons with albinism, the right and respectful terms to identify a person with albinism by. We're also going to be looking at the rights of persons with albinism, robust conversations, good messaging, ending with great recommendations. So quickly, I'm going to turn the conversation over to the ladies. My first question, I'm going to turn the conversation to the question to Vivian Chika, who will introduce herself first in Anambra State. And my question is, what is albinism and why is albinism a disability? So repeating, what is albinism? Just briefly tell us what it is and why it is considered a disability. As far as we're concerned, you are fine Oyibo peppers. So what's happening? Go ahead.
Okay, albinism is a congenital disorder whereby a person lacks a pigment that is called melanin, and this melanin is the pigment responsible for the skin color, the skin, the hair, and the eyes. So when one lacks or has little of this pigment, it results to what we call albinism. Then aspect of it being a disability or not, it has always been an argument even amongst the persons with albinism, that whether persons with albinism are persons with disability at the same time. Yes, because when you come to definition of disability, you could say that disability is anything that limits you from doing what others or what every other person can do freely. So I know that since the lack of the melanin in the skin, which results that if you go under the sun, that it will lead to soreness or harshness of the sun, will lead to skin cancer or thickness of the sun. Then another thing is lack of the melanin also affects the eyes. So since it limits you from going freely under the sun, it's a disability. Aside that, during the United Nations Convention, it's also confirmed that persons with albinism are also persons with disability, because a lot of persons with albinism now are suffering skin cancer as a result of what I just said now, lack of melanin, which affects the skin whenever we expose ourselves to the sun. So tell me, how can you now operate if you cannot go under the sun? If you cannot go under the sun, that it means that lack of melanin have limited you from living a free life like every other person. So it's a kind of disability. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Vivian, for dissecting it, looking at it from the definition of what disability is, and even driving to express how it has been classified under the United Nations as a form of disability. And yes, albinism is non-contagious. I just want to mention that because sometimes people just so it's non-contagious, and it is a genetically inherited from birth have, and it is due to lack of melanin. All right, thank you, Vivian. I will turn this same question, just one more view on it. What is albinism and why is it considered a disability? I don't know, Constance, do you have a different view or an added view to that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Like Vivian said, her definition of albinism is very solid. That's what albinism is. And if albinism is a disability, she defined what a disability is. But I'll break disability into three categories. First, you have impairments. Secondly, you have activity limitation. The third one, you have participation restriction. So when your impairment as a person with albinism, which is low vision, comes in contact with the barriers in the society, that is a disability. So because we have the low vision, which comes as a result of insufficient production of melanin, and then we also have it affect our eyes, our skin, and our hair, we cannot participate on an equal basis with others. Let me give an example. In the classroom, a child with albinism in the classroom cannot sit anywhere. And if that child is placed at the back, to sit at the back, he or she cannot see the board clearly. Now, because that child is treated just like everyone else, without considering that the child has an impairment, which is low vision, that leads to activity limitation because the child cannot participate on an equal basis with others until that child is taken to his or her preferred position to sit in class. That is when the child's performance in class can be impressive. Second example, playtime in school. Now, we know that in our schools, we have like break time is 12, 11 to 12. A child with albinism cannot go out to play like his or her mates. Why? Because of little or no production of melanin. Because if that child goes out under the sun to play, the child bears the risk of getting burnt by the sun, which can lead to skin cancer. So you see that the child with albinism cannot participate on an equal basis with others because of the presence of impairments, which is low vision and then the skin. So yes, for me, albinism is a disability. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. Don't worry, not just for you. We are all convinced. Albinism is a disability, and that has been settled. I like how, being the second, Constance now broke it down, taking the definition of what disability is, where she looked at participation limitation, activity limitation, being able to participate on equal basis with others, and how albinism can, disrupt that. And of course, the issue of health. And that brings to the next question. We've heard things about, the lack of melanin causing skin due to exposure to sun, skin cancer. So that automatically takes us to the next question. And to ask that question, let me ask Osaki to go ahead and ask the question. And I think Susie Gold, you'd be good to take on this question. So Osaki, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Susie. Well done. Okay, still in the act of still on the topic of albinism, what are some of the health challenges that persons with albinism goes through, and what is the prevention tip on how to manage it? That question goes to Susie.
Thank you very much. Like my sisters and friends have already explained to us what albinism is and how it affects the skin sensitivity. One of the major health issues that comes with albinism is skin cancer, which is a dreaded disease or illness or ailment. I don't know how to put that ailment that takes the lives of persons with albinism as much as mind can imagine, and that's because of the exposure of the body to the sun and its ultraviolet rays. Now, this is not even just direct sunlight. It's as much as the UVR, the rays from the sun, can damage the skin of persons with albinism. And so you have a lot of people saying, I don't want the sun, but I'm red, because that's where it starts from. You see that the body begins to burn instead of tan, and that's the reddish look you see on person's albinism body. And afterwards, with the continuous exposure, it turns to freckles, such as the spots that we all have, most people have on their body. Now, that is not even the issue. Now, the continuous exposure of the body again and again to the sun, those spots gradually turns to melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer. Now, melanoma can only be confirmed as skin cancer by a dermatologist. So I am not saying this for people who have spots on their body to freak out and say, hey, I'm down with skin cancer. But I'm just trying to tell you the process, how we get to that health issue that we need to kick against and make sure that we don't get to that point. So at the point when spot turns to melanoma, it generates to That's skin cancer, the type of skin cancer that at the end of the day results to death if not properly managed on time. Now, which is a major health issues that comes with albinism. For to ensure that we do not come down with this melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer, it is advised that persons with albinism avoid the sun as much as possible. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go outdoor. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a life. What I'm saying is that when you are thinking of going out or exposing your body to the sun and its UVR, ensure you have protective clothes as much as possible. Cover as much skin as you can with long sleeve clothes, with bowler hats, like wide brim hats that covers the face, the ear, the back of the neck, and lip balm also that protects the lip, because you see a lot of people have these injuries on their lip too. Some of them too turns to skin cancer. So we need to be watchful. Cover your body as much as you can. Try and use cotton clothes that can still make your skin breathe while at it. And then um, use sunscreen lotion with sun protection formula 50% and above. I make emphasis on 50% and above. The higher the sun protection formula, the better protection it gives to your skin, and the better ways that we can fight against melanoma, which is a type of skin cancer. Protect your skin as much as possible. We cannot overemphasize that. That's the major cause of skin cancer, which is a big health issues with persons with albinism. Thank you.
The second one that I think bothers persons with albinism is the eye, low vision, inability to see far. Okay, now let me point something out. We have albinism, yes, but I want to state it clearly that we have two types of albinism. We have the ocular and we have the oculocutaneous. Ocular albinism just affects the eye. It doesn't affect the skin, the hair, or the skin, the hair. Why oculocutaneous affects the skin, the eyes, and the hair. And under oculocutaneous, we have 7 subtypes, OCA1 to 7. Though I and my sisters are persons with albinism, but we are not the same type of albinism. So we have different levels of sight. One can see better than the other. Like I can say Susie Gold sees better than I can see. So our glasses, our assistive device will not be the same. But in general, all persons with albinism have issues when it comes to sight, but at varying degrees. So the best way to tackle it is to go to the hospital, see an ophthalmologist, get your eyes checked properly, because one eye sees better than the other. So the power is not the same. For my right eye, the power of the right lens is not the same for the left. That's how it works. So you have to keep going for medical checks. And sometimes we are advised to take vitamin A. We are like I was advised to take fruits, small fruits that contains vitamins, and also calcium as well. And then we have to keep going for routine checks. For myself, because like I said, we have varying degrees. So for myself, I go for my eye checks. Depends on how tired my eyes are, but max 6 months, I have to go to the hospital and sometimes have to change the lens of my assistive device, which is my glass. So one thing we have in common is the issue of sight. And the best way to handle this issue is to get our eyes checked regularly. Thank you.
All right. Amazing conversations. And honestly, the truth of the matter is that if we want to just do only health challenges and health tips, like that's like a full-on episode by itself. But this two that we are focused on, I'm hoping that someone has listened out there, because somebody, or it is an adage that says prevention is really better than cure. And if something is preventable, like where you wear protective gear, as opposed to being a James Bond and stepping into the sun and be like, oh, when it comes, I will know. You know, Nigerians, to do that thing. I'm still feeling fine. When it comes, I will know. When I'm feeling somehow, I'll know. Let's not do that. So do the right thing. And if you hear them very well, you keep hearing, go to the doctor. You know, we don't really have good health seeking behavior because of failures in our health systems. That's true. But we must try to do the needful, especially when your health needs, you know, that constant attention, you know. So a person with albinism who is out there listening, get protective gear when you're going out in the sun, and go to the eye doctor to check, the optometrist or the optician to check your eyes and do a review so that you can get the right assistive device as you step out, and make sure that, you know, since melanin also is an important pigment in the eye and there's lack of it in albinism, that whether you're wearing, you know, medicated glasses or not, you wear shaded glasses to prevent the sun rays from getting into your eyes. Okay, so let's take the conversation away from health and preventive tips. Like I said, that's a whole episode by itself. And let's turn it over to people with albinism and human rights. Because in the conversations that we have now, as regards different vulnerable groups and different issues, the rights-based approach to tackling issues remains the best. So this other question, when I talked about people with albinism and rights, I just want to go straight to beliefs and myths, you know, that form negative stereotypes and reinforce discrimination among persons with albinism. That's what I would like us to focus on. So what are some of the myths, you know, that people have when it comes to persons with albinism?
Okay, the first myth that is in fact, it's the biggest of it, is that albinism is contagious. We've seen cases where a person with albinism tries to get into a public bus, and a pregnant woman will say, oh, God forbid, driver, stop, let me move down. I can't stay close, believing that by sitting close to a person with albinism, the baby inside her womb, we turn into a person with albinism. So that's a very, very big myth that I don't know how they got it. I don't know, but it's not contagious. Then another one is person with albinism, that albinism came from the spirit world. That any person with albinism, that is not normal, that it's from our ancestors, or maybe because of the sins of your father, that's why you gave birth to a person with albinism. That's another major myth, especially in this part of the country, this eastern part of the country. I don't know for other parts, but these are the major myths that we see on our day-to-day activities. As in when you get in contact with people, that's what they tell you. I heard it's from the ancestors, or somebody sitting close to you may give birth to a person with albinism.
Okay, the most annoying myth I've ever heard. People say persons with albinism smell. And I'm like, who? That's not true. It's an individual thing. People smell based on their hygiene level. You don't associate it with albinism. So that's off it. The second one, people say when you have sex in the afternoon, you give birth to a child with albinism. That's a big lie. And I think people should stop thinking that way. I mean, this is 21st century. Thank you.
I am completely flawed. Like the sun would what? Bleach the child? Like literally, like okay, become freaky, but blah. Okay. Susie Gold, like to.
All right. One major one that I always hear about is people say it is the salt that causes the spots on persons with albinism body. That's a big myth. It's not the salt, it is the sun. Please, I say it again, it is not the salt or the pepper you eat, it is the sun that gives you the spot. Secondly, people feel that dark skin persons cannot give birth to persons with albinism, and if that happens, that means the wife had adultery. That's not true. It's genetic. It's in the gene, and it can come out. It's there. They can be carriers of the albinism gene, and you can still dark skin. So that's just the two myths. And please one more. It says that persons, the body parts of persons with albinism they're supernatural, and so you can get wealth from it. There's some part of the country, some countries in the world that main persons with albinism take out their body parts for money rituals, and that's the big lie. There is nothing supernatural about any person with albinism.
Wow. Not only do they call you spirits, they have said that you are supernatural beings with healing powers, parts of your body. And I'm sure that, oh my God. Please, people, I hope we're hearing this. These are myths and they are not correct. But understand that albinism is purely, absolutely genetic. No spirits involved, nothing. All right, so Tomisin, are you settled to ask the next question? Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Wow. A lot of these myths and misconceptions, trust me, they are things that we've heard growing up, and we've always had that. For somebody like me who, you know, became disabled later in life, I'd grown with those myths and misconceptions. And then it took me to be a part of the disability community to now begin to reason some of those misconceptions. Can this be actually true? So I can relate when I hear them. So the next question, and I'll be directing this to Constance first. What are those respectable terms that could be used in addressing persons with albinism? And at the same time, what are those terms that you've always heard that are disrespectful, demeaning, and embarrassing to persons with disabilities? To persons with albinism.
Okay, thank you very much. Growing up, we kept hearing albino. And while I was growing up and people were calling me that, as a child, I wasn't even comfortable with that name. But through evolution and how disability has come to play in Nigeria, I think the albinism community decided that the term persons with albinism is better because it sees the person first before the condition. So for me, the most agreeable term for us is persons with albinism. And the most disagreeable for me, because I've heard persons with albinism say, oh, I don't mind being called an albino. And I'm a person with albinism, I mind. I don't like it because people who call you that sometimes do not call you with the best intention. They call you that to mock you. And the terms I don't like, albino, and the Yorubas say afi oriro losan, translated to a white person that doesn't see in the afternoon. The third one, afi ojeyo, a white person that doesn't eat salt. So these terms for me, I don't find them comfortable at all. They are quite cringe-worthy for me, and I think people should do away with such terms. Thank you.
Let me add one more. That's a fin line for you. We say afiosha, shuku shuku pepe.
Yeah, that's like the song they sing when they see a person with albinism on the road.
As gods, or of the spirit world, when you call them Osha. Osha means gods and goddess in Yoruba land.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for that one. Okay, Susie Gold, let's have your own some of the disrespectful terms and the acceptable ones for persons with albinism.
Constance has said everything, so it's just I wouldn't want to repeat words. So for me, I've said everything she said. Just call me my name, or ask what's my name, what's your name, and I'll tell you my name. I have a very unique name, so you should use it instead of calling me albino, Osha, Anyari, all of that. Although I've done a tough skin with that because I was born in the ghetto. I grew up in the ghetto in Ajigule, but it's I wouldn't advise. It's not something that I would tell people to keep doing. It is not nice, and just call people by their name respectfully. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for Thomasin for those line of questions, and Constance and Sugo for clarifying. But albino is not okay. Remember, in our disability community here in Nigeria, we follow the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and we do person first. So that is person with albinism, or better still, find my name and use my name, as Susie Gold says.
All right, thank you very much. Vivian, this question goes to you. Violence against persons with albinism. While it has been reported that a person with albinism globally faces discrimination and stigmatization, information on cases of physical attacks against persons with albinism, it's mainly available from countries in Africa. Now in Nigeria, what is the situation in Nigeria and what is being done?
Okay. In Nigeria is really bad, but it's not as bad as it used to be because of the intervention of many bylaws and acts. Like in my state, we now have Anambra State Disability Rights Law, which still covers persons with albinism. Then it's on like 20, 15 years ago, when there are no laws or anything protecting persons with albinism or persons with disability. So I think now we are heading there. But you continue creating the awareness, letting people know about, and government helping to implement the implementation of those laws or these laws, like that of the one that is in national, the disability law in national level, then the acts in state level. So I think the government should do more to stop this totally, to end the violence against persons with albinism, because it's really not good to some states, especially some states that are still yet to get to my state where we are now. So it's not really easy, because when you try to do this to persons with albinism, you end up, some people might go into depression, and some people might kill themselves thinking that they are not valued, or I don't know. So I think governments should still do more, especially those states that do not have laws protecting their states. Thank you.
One of the violence, okay, I wouldn't say it's just peculiar to persons with albinism alone. I would say it's women with disabilities, such as rape. Now, a lady with albinism was raped, and the perpetrator told her that, finally, I have had sex with a person. I have had sex with an albino. That's the term the person used. So the person actually targeted her, not because she's a girl or anything, but specifically because she's a person with albinism. One of the myths surrounding albinism is people have this uh, twisted belief that persons with albinism, ladies with albinism, their vaginas are sweeter. So the rapist came with that mindset and raped a lady with albinism because of her albinism. The second one, I would say abandonment. Persons with albinism face abandonment from family. Example, I've been to an orphanage home. I saw a little girl with albinism, and she was dropped there by her parents. Her parents, growing up, I know that orphanages are meant for people who don't have parents, who don't have families to claim them. So the government takes control. But this child was dropped there by her biological parents because in her community, it is a taboo to give birth to a child with albinism. And if you do that, that child has to be killed. Now, that child was taken to an orphanage home because she's a child with albinism and was abandoned there by her parents. So most persons with albinism face abandonment. We also face sexual and gender-based violence. Sometimes you walk on the road and somebody touches you. As a person with albinism, I've experienced that. And I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you touch me? Oh, you're not even happy, say I did touch you. Any other man go touch you. You know, say you be Osha. That kind of thing. So I think why I say it is not only peculiar to only persons, women with albinism, is because most other women with disabilities also face this. But the perpetrators make specific talks pointing at the fact that we are persons with albinism.
Oh, wow. The things that go on in the minds of perpetrators of abuse. Mind blowing. Thanks for sharing. Let me turn the conversation over to Tomisin to ask the next question.
Well, I really felt touched too by those revelations, and I must say that a lot of advocacy, awareness, campaign, sensitization should and must definitely continue. We can't afford to continue hearing gory stories like this. It's really heartbreaking. So, where can a parent who has a child with albinism or someone who is already of age and has albinism, where can they go to get help in Nigeria, most especially? How can they find support groups that would aid their inclusion in livelihood? And I want Vivian to take the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming to that aspect, there are so many bodies or there are so many organizations that see to persons with disabilities. And like in my organization, we have our office in the Jonapid secretariat here. We also, at the Disability Rights Commission, we also have a sector which I'm the unit head. So any parent that brings his or her child to our office will be attended to. Then we have social media handles. We have our handles where we share our activities, we have WhatsApp groups. We have a lot of channels where you can reach us. So I think any parent with albinism, it depends on your location. Look for the body or the organization that sees to that particular let's say if it's a person with albinism, look for the organization that sees to persons with albinism. Take them to them. I want to get information. It's just a matter of being informed.
So there's a lot happening. Susie Gold works with children and women with disabilities, with albinism specifically. Constance has a network. Constance has a network for women and girls with albinism. So that's Constance, a network national. Then Vivian is Anambra State Jonapid. She's also the unit head for this cluster in the commission. So good representation right here. Just to let you know that in this era of information, that sometimes you need to seek out information, seek out others, so that you don't necessarily have to make mistakes that were made before. Anything that is preventable now, you do it. Information that is needed, you reach out. So you can write to us if you need contacts, like they mentioned, WhatsApp groups. I like that, specifically for, I'm sure, women and girls with albinism. Yeah, am I right? The WhatsApp group.
Yeah, we have for women and girls with albinism. We also have for caregivers and parents of kids with albinism. That's for Susie Gold.
Awesome. So after now, they just reach out. We'll connect you to them, and then they'll place you where you need to be. So whether you're a parent or a caregiver, you need that support, you need the information, perfect. So that I can talk to yourselves. There's nothing like having other people share experiences, and you learn from the experiences, and you also share there, and you de-stress. And then if you're a woman and a young girl with albinism, meeting your peers, having conversations. So we're going to be bringing the conversation to, we're winding down. So in the month of June, specifically on the 13th of June every year, the world celebrates the International Albinism Awareness Day. And it has been agreed that when it comes to the different clusters of disability, while we talk about issues around disability, sometimes it's important to be specific in raising awareness, which is what we're doing today. Now, this year, the theme was United in Making Our Voices Heard. And my question will go around to each of the ladies. In the spirit of winding down, this theme about united and making our voices heard. What is it that you want to be heard? Apart from the things that we've said today, this is where you look into your cameras and then you pick a group and you speak specifically to them by way of raising an awareness or advocacy. And when I mean any group, you can speak to the government, you can speak to members of society, you can speak to the media, you can speak to family, you can even speak to other disability clusters, even persons with albinism. So pick whoever you would like to raise awareness, what you want us to hear, and speak to the issue.
The message is simple and straight. Persons with albinism, I'm directing this to you. It is high time we push aside the why. Why am I maltreated? Why am I discriminated? Why am I stigmatized? And look at the how. How do I stop this process? How do I do better? How do we create the environment that we want to have or we long for? How do we get to that point of accomplishment, of dreams, of aspirations? And how do we create a safe environment? It begins with all of us. It begins with us. I'm directing this to you because you wear the shoes and you know where it hurts the most. There are a lot of work we have to do internally. As individuals, there are a lot of work we have to do on ourselves. We would not sit back and allow the other parties to meet us. It is important that we know that we get to meet ourselves at the middle. So how are you equipping yourself? What do you want to be? How do you want to get there? How do you want to change this narrative? That's the message I want to give to us. We need to speak in one voice. We need to have one goal, which is to make life better for persons with albinism all around the world in the future, to create a generation of healthy and happy persons with albinism. And the truth is, it starts with us. Take little effort, look good. Put attention on your body, on yourself, on what you emit, the energy you bring out. Do it. Go out there. Put yourself out there. Put yourself in the limelight. You will get a lot of no. You will get a lot of people who wouldn't believe in your dream. But eventually, with consistency and with you knowing what you want to do and how you want to do it, you will get there. So we need to do a lot of work. I want us to stand or stay on the wheel of our life and take control of it. Thank you very much.
I will talk about the government in this aspect. The government should try and be inclusive. Persons with albinism is not in the brain, it's just on the skin. So they should try and be involving persons with albinism in decision making. Persons with albinism should be seen amongst the House of Assembly. Persons with albinism should be seen in all prominent decision-making bodies. Persons with albinism should be employed. They should be gainfully employed. Appointments, they should give persons with albinism. It's not that somebody is a person with albinism does not mean that the person cannot deliver. By so doing, it shows inclusivity. You at the same time, the person will also put his or her own quota in the development of the society. So governments have a very big role to play in our community. Because I noticed that so many bodies, so many sectors, you hardly find a person with albinism. It's very hard. You maybe in a community you only see, or in a state you see a person, just one person with albinism in the top echelon, and it's wrong. It does not show inclusivity. So persons with albinism should be inclusive, especially the women. They should include the women with albinism, girls with albinism. It will give a lot of encouragement among the albinism community? Thank you.
My words will go to persons with albinism. I know that growing up hasn't been easy and the society hasn't been kind, but do not let your albinism define who you are and how far you can go and what you can achieve. Because you are the best version of yourself and you have a lot to offer the society, though they don't know it yet. But you have to put yourself out there. Build your capacity, read books, build your social currency, make friends, network with people. Do not be shy or sad because this is who you are. The Almighty has a reason for making you this way, and albinism should not define who you are, but you should allow yourself define who you want to be and how far you want to go. You can succeed in whatever you decide to do. You can succeed in whatever area, whatever field you decide to choose. And whatever change you need to see in the society begins from you. If you want the society to respect you, you have to earn it. If you want the society to recognize you, you have to put yourself out there. Do not limit yourself because of albinism or how you look or what people say. People will definitely talk, but whatever you tell yourself is the truth. Do not allow people bring you down, make you feel small, make you feel worthless. Rather, pick the stones that are thrown at you to build a castle for yourself where people would definitely come to look for you. Thank you.
I think my last word goes to persons living with albinism and society. I would say love and accept yourself because that's the only way forward. Because recently, I think the society is a copycat. You know, the current trend now, almost everybody is making their hair good color. People are like it's a fashion. Meanwhile, my sisters have it natural. And even when it comes to the contact lenses of eyes colors, people are wearing green, different colors. Why you have it natural? So I think just enjoy every bit of what life gives to you and see how much you can turn your lemon to lemonade. Then society should just accept people because people are living beings, irrespective of their differences. Learn to accept human beings because they have rights to live. Thank you.
Amazing words right there. In raising awareness on these issues, it starts with us within the disability clusters, especially persons, with, in this cluster being persons with albinism. No matter the inclusion that government finally does through laws and policies or acceptance by others, if you do not accept yourself, you cannot put yourself back into your story. You would do what we call self-stigmatization. You will begin to exclude yourself because you do not find worth in yourself. So to wrap this up, I would like to thank everyone who has listened, and I'm hoping that others in other disability clusters have learned something. Because when we do disability advocacy, sometimes we forget that the cluster that is defined as persons with disabilities is very dynamic, very diverse. Persons with albinisms are part of the disability cluster. So today on Bold TV, we have brought to you albinism awareness. We've taught you so much as regards persons with albinism and albinism as a disability cluster. We have, through the special ladies that we have had on our show today, that's Vivian, Susie Gold, and Constance. We've been able to tell you what albinism is, why it is a disability. We've told you some of the health challenges, given health tips on how you can prevent them and take care of yourself and have a better health quality of life. And then we've also talked about disrespectful terms and what terms are respectful. So from now, we're hoping that anybody who has watched this will not call a person with albinism an albino. We've also spoken to violence against persons with albinism, some of the forms that we have seen, especially in the Nigerian context. And we've spoken to the laws that protect persons with albinism. And also we have raised awareness. The ladies have spoken to different groups of persons, from persons with albinism to the government, to society, families, OPDs, the whole range. You have a role to play when it comes to inclusion. And I like how Osaki put it, see that person as a human first. Learn acceptance, understand that the world is dynamic. Everybody cannot be the same. That would be so boring. So accept people for who they are. This is Bold TV, and we come to you every Saturday by 10:30 a.m. Please remember to like, share, comment, share your observations. We really like the feedback we get. It's amazing. We are glad when we make impact and somebody says, oh, you made impact. So we'd like to hear from you. If you don't want to do that on social media, you can reach out to our email, and that's boldheartsnetwork.info@gmail.com. And any information you need on any of our episodes, we will provide it to you. So until we see you next time, and if you want to support us, I forgot to reach out as well. So until see you next time, ladies, unmute your mics and say your beautiful goodbyes, and we'll see everybody next week. Bye, y'all. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.